Right, hello everybody on YouTube. We're just waiting for everybody to join. We're doing this show a lot sooner after the race than what we normally have to, but just because of the time here in the UK makes it pretty unsociable. But I suppose we've got nothing to complain about compared to the likes of Steve and Jawad, who will be joining us because they normally have to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning to be on these shows. But yeah. Oh, speaking of Jawad. He's just joining now. Right. I don't know what's happening here. Oh, I can see you now. You're on mute, Jawad. Can you guys hear and see me all right? I think it just kicked me for a second there. Is that you, Steve? I can hear clicking away.
Hello.
Can you hear me all right, mate?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, thank God for that. No, it just kicked me from the session for a second. I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? But it joined me straight back. So I think fingers crossed we're okay. Yeah.
No, we should be all right. I was having some issues connecting on my partner's laptop, so I might, if it plays up, I'll switch to my phone. But it seems fine.
Seems good. Yeah.
Yeah, I really need to sort out a webcam for my desktop, but
we can hear you, Jawad. Yeah, you're right, mate. Can you hear us? Guessing that's going to be a no. Yeah, just so you guys are aware, this is going out live on YouTube at the moment. I just thought I'd get this out of the way as soon as I could.
No worries. Right. Can you hear my other computer in the background, or no?
No,
okay, cool. All right,
no, you're coming through loud and clear, mate.
Cool. Okay.
I just got to put all the description stuff in. And add the thumbnail as well if I can. But I don't think you can do it while it's actually going out live. It's a bit weird sometimes, YouTube Live. Suppose it was an entertaining race, this one. I enjoyed it, but we're kind of waiting for something maybe to happen, maybe a side-by-side moment for Hamilton and Verstappen. We didn't quite get it,
I was expecting Bahrain again. But yeah, didn't quite get there. Morning, Phil.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Good morning, depending. I don't know. We're good afternoon here because we're just an hour behind.
We can hear
an hour behind Texas.
Yeah, got headphone problems.
Yeah. No, it's nice. I'm talking to you guys, and there's daylight outside, although it's overcast as anything, and very muggy. It's apparently 89 degrees, 89% humidity. So it's sweaty.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Well, it's heading towards summer for you guys down in New Zealand at the moment, and Australia for that matter.
It is, yeah.
definitely not warm out here. It is chilly today.
Yeah,
does
it's
feel
very
getting
like
windy.
that.
it's getting that way over here too. Oh, I thought the way I really had a feeling, it was like, all right. I mean, I thought it was going to go one way, and then old Max went and pulled the old switcheroo.
That was a good race, nice and tense.
That was a great race. People
Yeah,
that complain about Coda, I don't get it.
I've got issues external to the on-track racing with racing in Texas, but we won't go there.
Well, yeah, I get that too, but unfortunately, there's only two, well now three tier 1, grade 1 circuits in America, and
which
one
is
of them
surprising considering the wealth of circuits you guys have.
Yeah, it's I don't understand it at all. I mean, Indianapolis, they would be there no matter what, and now with Penske there, I mean that'll never be a problem. But then there's this place, and now the Miami, whatever street
car park
race around
the Vegas Grand Prix 2.0. That'll last one race, and then they'll just pull the pin. I reckon it's just gonna be
with the local stuff. With the local stuff they got going on over there, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, Miami ran Indy cars for years on 2 different waves. They ran Indy cars and sports cars, 3 different times. They brought back the street course race, or they had the Miami street race in my lifetime, basically, and it went away. Yeah. So I have a hard time believing the Formula One deal is going to stick unless Stephen Ross, who owns the Miami Dolphins, Hard Rock Casinos, some of these people are really involved in it. But then Indianapolis is a perfectly is there. So if they want 2 U.S. Grand Prix, they can have them.
I'm surprised we've not had 2 USGPs this year, to be honest. But it looks like Brazil and Mexico are going ahead, so there's no need for it, really.
Well, yeah, Mexico sounds like is going to go ahead, so they're not going to. And then Brazil, somebody's going to get shot or something or whatever, because it's Brazil. Somebody's going to get, jumped or whatever, because now they're like, oh, man, not only can we give them COVID, we can jump them and take everything, like they always do at Sao Paulo, which is sad. But, I mean, at least, it's happened, I mean, that's the one thing. But, I mean, at least having Brazil back will be nice, because that's a good circuit, good challenge, tight. Gets everything out of the weather.
Favors Red Bull, so I'm okay with that.
It definitely does favor Red Bull. Yeah. That's the only problem I have with that. But Mexico is but I think now, today was, we'll get into it, but I think today was the day there that
this is definitely the sort of. It was. I didn't expect it, to be honest. I was. I think we got to that second stop for Max, and I just couldn't see him holding on to those tires for as long as he did. I thought it would just be, damage limitation by that point.
I didn't think either, but then I also was looking at the gap. They went +8, and I guess it's semantics if you say they come in a lap earlier at that point, because he had already got the gap to set. They got the gap to 8.7. I think Max at 8.7 after that pit stop. So, okay, fine. If we give or take maybe a half a second, does that half a second by coming in 1 lap earlier, does that come into play at the end of the race? That, I don't know what their sims would tell them if they had pitted on 7 laps, +7 versus +8, but whatever. I mean, in the end, it fits the way this year's went in a lot of ways. And Max didn't get the start, but Red Bull out-strategied them, and in the end, it went the way it's gone for a lot of this year. So,
yep. Shall we discuss that? That's a little bit more when we get into the show. Lads, you want to get going?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, good. Oh, one thing before we start though, Phil. Alana said to me today that Mazepin is the least good-looking Formula One driver, and that he is a quote egghead. And I thought, oh my God,
Oh,
you've
she
got
is.
to be kidding me.
Oh, she is an absolute gem. You need to go and, well, not, I mean, she was a keeper anyway, but the fact of the matter that, yeah, love her. Does she have any single friends? Because I definitely go for that. That is
oh my God,
beautiful.
I couldn't
That is
believe
outstanding.
it. I couldn't believe it.
Just,
Well, I
just
named
make
my
sure
team-
just make sure to remind her as well that Mazepin is 21st in a 20-car championship.
How many
It's a
seconds was he
phenomenal
behind
result
today?
on its own.
Wasn't he? Was he 3 laps behind today, or was he 2
Only
laps
two.
behind
Only
and like
two. I
two
think
and
it
a
was like
half
a minute
laps?
behind. I think it was a minute behind Schumacher, or a
Yeah.
minute
Okay.
and 10. So
All right.
80
So
seconds,
that's-
actually.
80
Okay,
seconds.
so that's
Oh my
on
God.
that's on par for him. So that's
That's a million years in Formula One, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you may as well just pack up and go home.
Yeah.
oh my God.
Oh, right.
We
Okay.
complained about his feet burning or something as well at some point. So
Was it
like,
Matt
burn.
Egghead said that? I thought
Yeah.
burn baby burn. Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
it was Max that said that. I don't know. I must have misheard that.
I don't know. We better stop
Maybe
ribbing
that would
Mazepin
help.
though before some like Spetsnaz
Yeah, we got-
special ops team bursts through the door.
Yeah, let's save that for the end of the
Steve,
show.
I've been doing this since he got on the grid, and quite frankly, my life has become better ever since I started doing it because I
Namaste.
feel better about life.
Oh,
It's
right.
therapeutic.
Yeah, I mean, I've named my team that is dead last in George's
The fancy Premier League. Yeah.
in the Premier League team, Egghead Bobs for Apples, which is a double entendre. So
Oh, I love it. That's amazing.
Right. On that note, let's start the show.
do you have a read you have to do? So you'd be laughing through that too?
Yeah, I need to compose myself. Right.
Okay. Totally professional.
As always. Despite getting the lead off the line, there was absolutely nothing Sir Lewis Hamilton could do to stop Max Verstappen from getting his first win in the USA today at COTA. Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast, everybody. This is episode number 145, where we're going to be reviewing the US Grand Prix. I'm your host, George Howson, and joining me today are Phil Mathew of the Grip Strip podcast.
Hello.
Formula Shakedown, Steve Jackson.
Good morning.
And Jawad Yakub from the Hit the Apex podcast.
Hey, everybody.
Here we go. So before we get into the race itself, I have to apologize to some of our listeners and viewers that we've not been able to read out the 5-star reviews we've been getting on iTunes. There's been some sort of technical glitch with Omni Studio or something like that, but we've got them now, and there's quite a few to get through. We've got Nomad999 from the USA, By Fun Game But It, also from the USA, TM Morowski 19 from the USA. We've got Rufy M from Ireland and Georgia 5328 from Canada. Thank you all for your 5-star reviews. Lots of positive news on there. Thank you very much. That really does help us in the rankings. And if you want to leave a 5-star review for us as well, go to iTunes, make an account if you haven't already got one, and just leave us a 5-star review on there, and we'll give you a shout out at the start of the show. So let's get into this one. So Max Verstappen got pole position, as we covered in our first ever watch along yesterday, but it was Sir Lewis Hamilton who got off the line, better Phil, and took the lead into turn one. However, Red Bull, they had 2 cars up there at the front. They could play the alternate strategies, and in the end, they managed to get Verstappen ahead, and he stayed there.
Yeah, it was definitely a great job across the board by not only Max behind the wheel. To be fair, even when he didn't get the start, and Lewis probably got the best start he's had all year, he was within around that DRS range basically the whole time during that first stint, and he seemed in control and very calm. Team was very composed, and they dictated basically. I mean, I guess one of the good things that happened was Lewis made that start, or else I think it could have been a runaway for Max in this race. In the end, it actually made it a much more compelling race overall. But Well, I think there's maybe doubt because of how Red Bull was coming in or taking pit stops earlier for Max, but Max in his own right and the way he's built himself up over this last maybe year and a half, um, his self control, his ability to make these tires last and not make that massive error, not put himself in harm's way, even with the issues in traffic. Which that was one of the main keys that we'll talk about. But I think that even with all the issues in traffic, even with one of the greatest drivers of all time bearing down on him, even with better tires, all the other things that were up against him, Max Verstappen, this was a turning point in this season. 5 races to go. There'll be one race in Mexico, and then there'll be 3 consecutive. I forget how how it is, but it's kind of weird setup. But these tracks, a lot of them kind of suit the Red Bull more than the Mercedes. And this is a Mercedes track. This is a Lewis Hamilton track. To go there, do what he did, it's a big deal for Red Bull and for Max Verstappen, and you just have to give credit to them. They've been the best all year, and best continue to do that today. They had to work for it a lot harder than they've had in other races, but they got it done.
Yeah, they absolutely got it done. And I totally agree with everything said there. I think going into this weekend, especially with how good the Mercedes was in Turkey, even Bottas managed to win in the Mercedes at Turkey. If Hamilton started at the front of that race, he would have won it, I think. I don't think there's much doubt about that. But for them to come here, Red Bull, and win a track that Hamilton in particular has dominated at over the years, it's a massive statement. And we've got Brazil and Mexico coming up next, which Max Verstappen is very good at both of those tracks historically as well. So, Steve, at the moment, I mean, there's still a ways to go. We've got 5 races still left on the calendar. But as a Red Bull fan, it's very exciting at this moment because this was, out of the 6 circuits we had left before today, this was arguably the worst for Red Bull. At least what we thought was going to be the worst, and they've won.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a massive win for Red Bull. I mean, that's obvious. It's good in a couple of ways. I mean, it helps their Constructors Championship attempt as well. I mean, you know, considering they got both their drivers on the podium, but the psychological element of this, you know, taking a win away from a track that's been just like a very happy hunting ground for Mercedes in the past is going to do. It's going to have massive boons in the Red Bull camp. And possibly have some question marks for Mercedes to try and answer themselves as well. But it's not, if I'm honest, it's not the result I was expecting. We got to, I think, Max's second stop, and I was sitting there thinking they'd stopped him far, far too early. And Mercedes obviously knew that, and they just ran as long as they could with Hamilton to get him onto a fresher set of tyres at the end. And I mean, I thought that was it. And even then, it would have still been a good weekend for Max if he did come second. I mean, Lewis and Max would probably be neck and neck if that was the result. But now he's 12 points clear. They've closed the gap in constructors as well, and we're now going into 2 circuits that have typically favoured Red Bull, and then we've got 2 circuits that are total unknowns because we've never been there before, and then we've got Yas Marina, which is usually a bit of a dead rubber in terms of actual on-track racing. But I do think this has now set up the championship in a way that it's now Max's to lose. I don't think there'll be any sort of major surprises at the next 2 races. I'm expecting Red Bull to go quite well there, especially Checo at his home race. We all know what home races do to drivers. They can make them do some unnaturally talented things. So this is sort of stoked a fire that's been burning all season. It had petered off a wee bit. I mean, we haven't seen Max and Lewis on track, sharing the same piece of real estate on track for a wee while. So this was exciting. I was kind of hoping for a repeat of Bahrain where they're actually wheel to wheel, but massive result for them. I'm sure the team's happy. And something I mentioned on Formula Shakedown, actually, I just did a wee sort of post to see who thinks what for the rest of the year. And it's now gotten to the point where I don't care who wins because the season's been that good. I'd still love to see Max take it, but whoever wins is, rightfully deserving of it. It's been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been chatting on our group chat and saying that, this is the closest title fight, the only real proper title fight between two different drivers from two different teams. That's going to hopefully go the whole season. It's the first time that's happened since 2012 with Alonso and Vettel. So to see it playing out like this is brilliant. And I totally agree with you. Like, I don't really mind who wins the championship. It's just been a hell of a ride, and we just want to keep enjoying it for as long as possible. But it does seem like it's majorly advantage Verstappen. But Jawad, we've fought this before. We thought, the championship's done after Hamilton won, I think, 3 of the first 4 races, and Verstappen wasn't really close. We thought Hamilton's going to win it. Then Verstappen came back mid-season. He won 3 times, I think, in France and Austria twice. And we thought, it's Verstappen's now. And then Hamilton came back, and now it's again advantage Verstappen. But there's still time for that to change. You just can't call it. Just like the race today, you couldn't call it until the last lap.
Yeah, it's just ebbed and flowed quite nicely this season overall. And then, having said that, the championship lead has changed like 4 times in the last whatever races. And, it could have changed today again if Hamilton had won. So, at this point of the year, usually there's, like four races to go or something, but we've got 6 still, or 5 now or whatever. Is it 5 or 6? I can't. There's too many races on the calendar. But yeah, it's hard to tell. But Max's win today definitely does give him that advantage. I saw in that group chat, you guys trying to calculate what it would be like, if Max had a certain advantage or it was this way or that way. But I'm with Steve. Like, I don't care who wins this year. It's just been such a good year, and may the best driver win at the end of the day.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been brilliant. And today we didn't see an on-track battle directly between Hamilton and Verstappen. If it ran a couple more laps, we might have seen that. We probably would have done. But honestly, I don't think either driver really could have done much better today. They both performed excellently. They both drove to the absolute limit. Even both of the starts were good. Hamilton's was just slightly better. That was the only difference. It wasn't a bad start for Verstappen at all. So I feel like Hamilton, even though he came second, he will be disappointed with that, of course, but I don't think there's anything else he could have done. He was the driver ahead. Verstappen was always going to have the chance to pit without him being able to react. So it was always going to be an undercut for Verstappen. So honestly, I think the people who love racing and love Formula One would have really enjoyed this one. This was a real proper battle between these two. And we want to see this for the rest of the season. We want to see good, clean racing between them. It was exciting when they crashed, of course, but we want to see good, clean racing between the two of them. But yeah, let's get on to the guy who completed the podium today, Phil. Sergio Perez. He didn't have a podium for a while. He didn't have one since France, but now he's had 2 in a row. And it was a solid race for him. Some might say, he's finished 30 or 40 seconds behind Verstappen and Hamilton, but those two are just in a different league to everybody else. Perez did all he could today, really.
And he dictated the pit stop sequence, I think, at least in the first segment, the first pit stop for Max. The fact that Sergio was still within range kind of forced the hand of Mercedes, and that, I think, played a role too, in the general gist of how this race went. Sergio Perez, at the end of the day, is the number 2 driver at Red Bull. Usually number 2 drivers at Red Bull get crappy cars that don't last races and they fall out or whatever. In this case, they've given Sergio Perez something to work with. He's also figured out what he needs from the car that will give him pace and give him the opportunity to compete. He had provisional pole yesterday too. And Sergio Perez has never been known as a great qualifier. So to be fair, it's been one of his better weekends he's had all year. He did what he needed to do. He assisted Max and the team in their process to try to go and dictate this race. And he got the best out of it. He scores 3rd place points based on where he was relative to Valtteri. He gains a bunch of points. The constructors battle gets a little more condensed. 5 races to go. Going home, I know that he wants to win at home. It might be one of the most epic things. It might be akin to Senna in 91. If Sergio Perez somehow or another wins the Mexican Grand Prix, I think, and the funny thing is, I think it's possible. I know they want Max to win, but it may be a time where, depending on how things lay out, it might work out that Sergio might put it all together and put a whole weekend together, because of how he ran here at COTA. It's one of the better overall performances all year, but I think it's something where he's figured out something. He's comfortable. He's feeling good. He's got a contract for next year. Things are vibing very well there, and it's all signs, all things moving forward for Red Bull Racing, and Sergio Perez did a great job today.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a great job today. And there would have been some Mexican fans probably in the stands as well, but he's going to have a hell of a lot more in 2 weeks' time. It's good. It's going to be incredible. He always brought an amazing crowd to Mexico for those races. And also shout out to the American fans as well. 400,000 fans attending COTA across the week. And I think there was something like 150,000 there today. Those are massive numbers. People talk about Formula One struggling in America. I don't see that. That is a huge crowd to draw by any country's standards.
Biggest draw they've had at COTA, I think, since their first race or first couple of races. One of the biggest draws they've had in America, period. I mean, outside that in the first couple of years, and then Indy, the first year at Indy. It was packed yesterday. And I don't know how many qualifying sessions we've had outside of the British Grand Prix and here and there that have been that packed out, but if people they're trying to do stuff about COTA or whatever, I think that was a sign that whatever they're doing, Bobby Epstein and company at Circuit of the Americas, they're doing a great job for fans, and in turn, the track provides a good enough product to stay around a little while longer. Hopefully, the finances, everything work out there.
I hope so too. I hope it sticks around on the calendar. It is a proper venue for Formula One. It is a purpose-built circuit in America, and it fully deserves its place on the calendar. We want to see it stay for the foreseeable future, definitely. And like Phil mentioned as well, this new vein of form for Sergio Perez is coming at a very crucial time for Red Bull. The Constructors Championship, it wasn't that close before, but now it's getting within touching distance. 23 points Mercedes' advantage. That's not that big an advantage going into the final 5 races. That could easily swing Red Bull's way, especially if they keep getting double podiums like this. Someone else who was very much impressing today, Steve, was Char Leclair. Another brilliant 4th place today. We didn't really see anything of him, to be honest with you, throughout the race, but this is a huge point hole for Ferrari, and he just looked absolutely comfortable. He was even catching Checo at one stage of the race.
Yeah, the TV coverage was a bit criminal at points, wasn't it? It didn't really focus on anything happening behind Lewis. Yeah, really good performance. Ferrari have been looking pretty onto it for most of the weekend. In fact, I mean, they've just sort of gotten on with the job. They haven't made too much noise. I mean, practice times and that sort of thing, we know not to sort of take those too seriously, but it wasn't looking like they were, truly lacking for pace like they have earlier this year. And now that both Charlie and Carlos have the updated power unit in their car, I think that's potentially a factor. Another thing is the absence of Mattia Binotto, and I don't know if this is just a coincidence, but I do find it funny that when Binotto's not there, and this isn't a go at Mattia Binotto as well. It's just it's more of a sort of just addressing Ferrari's weird management structure. Having one man do 2 jobs is quite difficult. But when there's not that overriding pressure there, and whatever happens behind closed doors, they tend to do quite well. So I think that's possibly an indication that Ferrari do need to look at that and maybe, put somebody else into the role that they plan for having for more than a year before they sack them and find someone else. But in terms of Leclerc's performance, absolutely spot on. That first couple of laps tussle with was it Daniel and Carlos all having a go at each other, was really good. Sorry, not Carlos. No, sorry, I'm getting my drivers mixed up. Never mind. But no, it was a really good performance. It's just a shame we didn't see more of it, and that's possibly why I'm sort of getting my drivers mixed up. But yeah, it's also a good boost for their championship fight with McLaren, which is very much still on. I think there's less than 10 points between them now. So that could very much swing either way, and that means a lot. I mean, that's effectively how much the team gets paid in bonus money at the end of the year, and that'll go towards next year's car. I don't think Ferrari is struggling for money, but McLaren might not have the same sort of budget, and if they can sort of take a chunk out of McLaren for 2022, then that's obviously going to help for them for the next season as well. So yeah, really good drive. It's just a shame we didn't see more of it, but I think that was pretty common throughout the race.
I think it showed also how comfortable he was. There wasn't really anybody within 5 seconds of him for most of the race. He was just he was best of the rest, for lack of a better term, which I think does a disservice to him because he was excellent today. He really was, not for the first time. And like you rightly point out as well, it's very, very close between McLaren and Ferrari. Some people were saying after McLaren's win in Italy that they're long gone. They've got third. Most McLaren fans did not think that. There's still a long way to go. But 3.5 points now, their advantage has gone down. So it could easily swing either way still. That is another great battle in this championship this season. And one of the guys keeping McLaren ahead of Ferrari for the moment is Daniel Ricciardo. Jawad, a solid drive by him today in fifth. He got his elbows out. He kept behind Sainz. He even kept behind Bottas as well in the closing stages. So that's a huge fifth place for McLaren. And to be honest with you, that's the best he could have really hoped for because Ferrari, for the most part this weekend, have looked to have the faster car.
Yeah, like during the race, I thought it was a given with Leclerc being so far ahead that I don't think we could do any better for McLaren, but fifth is still really good. And as you say, the gap is 3.5 points or whatever. So, and then towards the end of the race, it was quite entertaining too with Ricardo, Sainz and Bottas at the end, and Sainz and Dan having a little bit of a come together as well, and Sainz not being too happy about it. He did damage his front wing. But yeah, I think, same thing with Perez as well at the first half of the season. There was the critics about how he's not doing too well being with the new team and all. And, Ricardo copped a lot of criticism as well. But I think in this second half of the season, and particularly since the win as well, he has come a bit stronger. And then when you compare him to his teammates' race this time round, it was infinitely better than what Lando went through. And Lando, that's another story we'll get to a bit later. But yeah, it's going to keep that fight going hopefully to the end of the season. And it's kind of like he treats it like a home race, Ricardo as well. He fully embraces the Texan lifestyle and gets the handlebars and all that out. So I think he grows an extra leg every time he comes here.
Yeah, he does love going to court. He does love going to America. The Beyond the Grid podcast really covered that as well, how much he loves going over there. Unfortunately, he's obviously not had a home race for the last 2 years, but hopefully that will change next year. I really hope so. It's well overdue. We've not been to Melbourne in a very long time.
There's no excuse now from a Melbourne point of view for a race not to go ahead next year. So.
Exactly. And we need to see that new layout. That new layout should really help the flow of the track, I think. Definitely make it a lot more high speed, which is always fun to watch. But yeah, so next up we have Valtteri Bottas. He qualified down in fourth, but he had a penalty, started in ninth. Recovered up to sixth. Phil, it seemed like one of those races where he wasn't really going to make up many places. He had a late charge, which helped. But given his form, given the fact he won last time out in Turkey, it's a little disappointing that he didn't break through to at least challenge Leclerc.
Yeah, it's kind of the ebbs and flows of Valtteri Bottas that we're going through here, and it was and he's won at Coda the last time they were there 2 years ago, and he really wasn't a factor in the qualifying side. He didn't put the laps together to challenge Red Bull or even Lewis in that sense. And then in the race, because of the grid penalty for the sixth power unit, he was held up and couldn't pass Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly. So then his race was basically run at that point, and then they try to run him long to get some space, have fresher tires. In the end, it kind of did work out, but Carlos Sainz was there and Lando Norris, which we'll talk about both of them here momentarily. But he was 3.5 seconds off of Ricardo, and he wasn't anywhere near Leclerc all day, really. And it's a shame, but it's something where, depending on now, maybe he'll be able to get through the rest of the season without having to take another engine penalty. We might be able to see him make a push at Mexico, maybe make a push at one of the Middle East circuits, and try to kind of bring a challenge, because now it's really a problem where Red Bull has, it seems like both drivers are, we know one driver is at the absolute top of his game, but the second driver is also doing a very good job. And Valtteri is there in part to go and support Lewis, but also to be able to score lots of points and get podiums. And it's been a struggle for him all year, and he's going to have to turn that around quickly. If he doesn't, they could lose both championships here, and it wouldn't be that much of a shock. So, consolidation race today, but I think Mexico, he should have to do or want to do better in general, just to help the Mercedes chances in regards to Constructors Championship.
Yeah, things turn around very fast in Formula One. After Turkey, we were saying that Bottas is back on form. He's been the highest scoring driver in the last 5 races or something like that, whatever it was. But this was not a particularly great race for him. Wasn't helped by the penalty, of course, before the race started, but still, you'd probably expect a bit better from him. But there we go. That's how it goes sometimes, unfortunately. It's never easy coming through from the grid, back of the grid or mid-grid or whatever. So, yeah. Carlos Sainz ended up finishing in 7th place today. He was challenging Ricardo for 5th. It was looking like he was going to get past him. Ricardo just said no, though. It was a great battle between those. And I think towards the end, Steve, his tyres probably ran out, but he still managed to finish ahead of Lando Norris, which is, of course, key for that battle in the Constructors' Championship. And I think Steve is actually froze. I'm going to throw that one to you, Jawad, instead. So,
Sainz did a good job until the end of the race as well. And just again, the speed of the Ferraris this weekend was greater than that of the McLarens. I think he did a good job as well with, the damage at the end. So, this team I just love the combination, how well they've done all season. And when you look at where they both are in the championship too, it's pretty nip and tuck with their points and everything. So, last year it was like Ferrari are racing around with a hand tied behind their back because Vettel was just nowhere. But yeah, this year, I think you were saying this last time that Leclerc is kind of racing without, the pressure of carrying the team as well. So, it's good to have that other driver there getting the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of those drivers all season, we've said it since the very start, they've both been on it. Carlos Sainz has slotted into that team excellently well and is still getting good results. It's not a disastrous result by any means because he managed to beat Lando Norris in 8th place, Phil. And I don't know what to make of his weekend this weekend. Ricardo just seemed faster for the most part. He did a very good job. Lando Norris still gets some points, but he will be disappointed to kind of be at the back of that top 14 battle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think for what Lando's been doing all year, Georgia, he's had great runs. He's had opportunities of great runs. He's been in the top 5 in points all year. Having an off weekend, kind of swapping roles in a sense from what most of the season has been, where he never really seemed to have the pace. He didn't have the race pace either, the qualifying pace or the race pace relative to Ricardo. Of course, Ricardo, as Jawad said, he becomes a different guy really when he goes to COTA or anywhere near, the US, and the fans love him here too, and it's a feeling is mutual in that sense. But in regards to Lando, unfortunately, Pace wasn't there this weekend, but I think he'll be fine. I just chalk it up. He got points. He was able to make the most of his situation, considering he wasn't at his peak. He was at his prime best. He was close to Carlos. He was making moves. He was challenging. He actually finished on the lead lap, which is something considering how many guys were lapped today. It's something where I feel like he'll reset and go into these next 5 races trying to go and keep that 4th place in points as a battle going all the way down to the line. Which, I mean, he's only a point behind Sergio Perez, and that's only after Sergio Perez has had another podium. So he's definitely in that mix. He can keep on going, and I think he'll be okay. It's just you can't have great races every race unless you're basically Lewis or Max. But as long as you limit those rough days and you're still scoring points, I think things will be okay for Lando in the end.
Yeah, and if you look at the bigger picture at the end of the day, unfortunately for him, he has lost his 4th place in the championship as it stands, but he's still only a point behind Sergio Perez, who's had a much faster car all year. And he's still a good 21 points ahead of Char Leclair in 6th as well. So it's been an incredible year for Lando Norris, and for him not to probably end up not getting a win. I mean, who knows? He might get a win later this year. You don't know what's going to happen with this season. But yeah, if anybody deserves a win, it's that guy. But yeah, it's not quite worked out for him like that so far. First, I mean, Phil mentioned that a lot of the guys were lapped this race. The highest place finisher who was a lap down was Yuki Tsunoda, Steve, in 9th place. And I have to say, especially with Gasly going out because of a mechanical issue, he did a very good job today. I think this is a lot more of the kind of drive we expect from him.
Yeah, he's grown up a lot in the last few races, I think. I had massive doubts about Yuki. I think after Imola, actually, just the qualifying incidents and that sort of thing, and there was a lot of talk that the pressure's getting to him and that sort of thing. But he's he's still making mistakes. He's still learning, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people, including myself, needed to remember. But this was just a really solid, mature, level-headed drive. Kept his nose clean, didn't hold anybody up, which is really important. I mean, he crucially moved out of the way for Max going into T1 in the closing stages. So he's had a really good weekend, and he's taken a couple of points home for AlphaTauri when after Pierre had to retire. Really good race. Once again, we didn't see too much of it, but sometimes it's a good thing when it comes to drivers like Tsunoda, because quite often when the cameras are on them, it means that they're backwards into a wall or something like that. So really good drive, really happy for him, and I hope this sort of performance shows him that he belongs in F1 as well, because I've changed my mind about him. I do think he's got a place in F1. He just needs to work on that consistency, and also just his temperament as well. We've heard him get very colourful on the radio in the past. Just keeping a level head, and remembering what he's there for, and remembering that it's a learning year is important. And whether he's had that sort of thing in the back of his mind this weekend or not, I don't know. But I'd say that this is a good. It's encouraging for him, and it's reassuring for the team that they have, they've got a capable driver that they can sort of nurture and develop and work with. Really good weekend for Yuki, and good couple of points. Apologies for the dropout there, by the way.
Oh, it's all right, mate. Don't worry. We realised you froze and we threw the question to Jawad. So there wasn't much of a delay there. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is exactly the kind of race that he needs. It's exactly the kind of race that AlphaTauri need as well. They are 10 points behind Alpine, and Alpine didn't score points today, and they never looked like scoring points, really. They seem to have kind of probably diverted their attention towards it next year, but still fifth in the constructors for those guys. AlphaTauri are going to look to take that off of them, though. But it's going to be, again, it's another great battle between those guys, the constructors, for the rest of this season, I'm sure. And the final point scorer today was, surprisingly, Sebastian Vettel, Jawad. And with about 20 or so laps to go, it never, ever looked as though Aston Martin were going to score a point, but they did. Partly because of Kimi Räikkönen spinning out, but still, Seb Vettel was there to take the point in the end, and it could be a big one from the end of the day. This is again, they could try and force the way back into that battle in fifth, but maybe now it's a bridge too far for them.
Possibly a bridge too far. I probably think so, given their form pretty much all season. It's not been consistent enough, but it was good for Seb on the day to pick up the point there, considering he did start from the back of the grid with the engine penalty. I think strategy-wise, they went medium, hard as well. So they were thereabouts. It was nice as well during the middle of the race, and I commentated on this a little bit, how we saw Seb and Alonso having a bit of a wheel-to-wheel battle, and then we saw Kimi and Alonso later on, which we'll go over as well. But yeah, doing a bit of wheel-to-wheel racing was good, but it's not where we want to see someone like Seb. But still picking up that point is quite important, and especially when his teammate really didn't have much of an impact on the race either. I think Seb flying the flag for Aston Martin is quite important.
Yeah, other than the crash between the two Canadians, Latifi and Stroll at the start of the race, we really did not see Lance Stroll at all during this one. It was definitely one to forget for him. He ended up finishing 12th, but I think that just kind of flatter his performance today. But yeah, let's get on to the Alfa Romeos next. Antonio Giovinazzi again being 11th. I swear he's finished 11th like 8 times this season, just missing out on points again. But Kimi Räikkönen was in the points until the closing stages, Phil, and it seemed like he had some sort of failure, but he managed to finish the race. I'm just thinking maybe he just made a mistake.
Well, you have to think of the tires. I don't know how long he had been on the set of tires, George. I also think that first section very tight and twisting. So if you go and put a wheel wrong there, you're liable to go and have an off. The fact that he didn't have a massive one is credit to his great skill. Of course, Kimi Räikkönen joke around about how bored he is and if he's really focused. I think he was focused, because if he was somebody else, certain people on this grid, he probably would have put in the wall. But instead, he was able to recover. Unfortunate, lost the point there. Alpha, of course, just playing out for 9th in the Constructors at this point, but and in his last races as a Grand Prix driver. But this is a track where, the long straights, the Alfa Romeo Sauber team plays better at the tracks where they have these long straightaways. The tighter circuits definitely are not their thing. So it was kind of a missed opportunity, unfortunately. Giovinazzi, we have no idea. There's lots of rumors going around about what this team is going to be and who's going to be in this team. So Giovinazzi right now is racing for a career. I think these races, considering what they're Alfa Romeo, we don't know what they're going to be, who they're going to like. You kind of want to maximize those opportunities. And for Kimi Räikkönen, how many more chances is he really going to have to score a point in the next 5 races? We really don't know. So it's unfortunate that he spun out of that position. But he showed once again, they both had great starts today. Kind of showed once again, Kimi Räikkönen, world champion, tough charger, all that. But we'll see what happens. Maybe Jedi or whatever, the Saudi, because basically it looked like the Saudi Grand Prix today when you consider all the Middle Eastern sponsorship we had in Austin, Texas, of all places. It was sponsored by ARAMCO, no less. So I'm like, wow, we must be getting turned into opposite world.
Yeah, I must admit, that took me by surprise too. And we also saw the Qatar banners on the side as well in certain parts. It's strange seeing that, but obviously they've paid the money, and they accepted it. So there we go. That's how this works, unfortunately. But yeah, so not a good one for Alfa Romeo at all. This probably would have been their last chance to score a point maybe this season too. That battle with Williams looks done. Despite Williams today, Steve not having a good day, 14th and 15th for Russell and Latifi, but they've probably shifted all their emphasis towards next year anyway, and they look safe in 8th place. So I think this is kind of to be expected, really.
Yeah, I think they'll take what they can get and not take too many risks. Now they've basically secured that spot in eighth in constructors. So it's nice to see them moving up the grid in that sense. But like obviously Latifi and Stroll came together at lap 1. I'm sure many Canadian apologies were offered towards each other, but George got up to, he started 20th, moved up to 14th and basically just stayed there for the rest of the race. So, whether that was a case of them just holding station and just sort of, accepting that, pushing any further would be running risks, or whether it was just the typical Williams aerodynamic defects at a circuit, which does stretches a car in every sense. It's got some incredibly twisty sections. I mean, that first sector is just a roller coaster, and then you've got some very high speed sections as well. And we've seen the Williams struggle with circuits where it does demand a more, I suppose, a hybrid setup. I think there were limiting factors in the car there. Definitely no limiting factors with George Russell as a driver. We've seen what he's capable of. They were both pretty conspicuous by their absence once that part of the grid had sort of settled into a healthy rhythm. But I think you're right. It's very much a case of a lot of these teams, especially the teams lower down the order, putting all the resources they have into 2022. They don't have the luxury of additional personnel or materials that some of the bigger teams will necessarily have. So they need to be quite strategic with how they approach next year, because it's going to be very, very different. But good race for George anyway, and just a bit of a shame for Nick, because Latifi's been pretty good this year. Again, a driver I had my doubts over, but he's been really a solid performer this year, and he's shown that he's a good he's definitely got a couple more years at Williams at least in him before that, like if he improves, then he might get picked up by another team. But like where he is at the moment, Williams seemed pretty happy with him, so fair play. But it's just a shame we didn't see more of him today.
Yeah, another team we didn't see too much of today. I think you're right. His seat at Williams is going to be safe for a number of years, but not just because obviously his father's backing, but also because he genuinely probably deserves it. If he keeps us on this upward trajectory, why not? It'd be interesting to see how he gets on against Albon in the same car next year. And of course, more interestingly, we'll see how Hamilton and Russell get on in the same car next year too. That's the exciting one. So we'll get on to the guys who are usually at the back, usually last. At least this time they finished 16th and 17th, but that was just because there was 3 retirements behind them, Jawad. It's, of course, the Haas cars. Schumacher ahead of Mazepin, copy-paste, back of the grid. It's the same every time. From this, the only time we saw them really was when they were being lapped. That was it.
That was it. And bit of peril there with Mick at the end, trying not to get in Max's way. And luckily Max picked up the DRS as well from him coming out of the final corner. So a little bit of advantage there. But for me, I guess the highlight with, this copy-paste situation is the fact that Mick finished almost 90 seconds ahead of his teammate. That gap is pretty. It's like GP2. Like Fernando Alonso talking about GP2 engines again. It's like a comedy of errors, basically. So yeah, that's, I guess, if Mick would call that an achievement, it's like, yeah, no words. It's worth a good laugh though.
Yeah, it is that. It's not very funny for Haas in their home race. That's how they perform. But there we go. That's how it goes for them.
Didn't see anyone wearing Haas gear in the grandstands like you usually do as well. The first couple of years there was quite a bit of support, but yeah,
I think that's probably gone away with this year, hasn't it? I mean,
yeah, no one.
Yeah,
wants
now
to
that
wear
their mother rushes
Russian colours.
Yeah, I saw one couple in a crowd shot on I think it's qualifying wearing Haas shirts. But they were the only ones I saw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was like one guy with a cowboy hat wearing the Russian national, the Haas shirt, and then I'm like, okay, so that's weird. And then he's just surrounded by like Max and Lewis and everybody else. So I'm like, okay, you're trying to be a trendsetter, I guess. He really loves Egghead. I mean, you gotta love Egghead to go and wear that shirt.
I did like the face cutout of Gunter Steiner, though. You would have seen that on Haas's social media channel, so that was pretty entertaining. So I wonder if someone will do a cutout of Egghead at a future race. That would be quite something, if you're brave enough to rock up to the track with a massive face of him.
Phil, you know what you have to do. 2022 USGP or Miami, whichever you choose. You've got to do it.
Cutout, go and show up with a cutout of Egghead. Miami, I kind of want to go. The tickets are coming on sale. I don't know. I'd probably have to sell an organ since we're talking about a Russian guy. So that probably would be a thing. So then at that point, if I have enough money left, I might go and get a cutout or make a cutout of Egghead and then sit in a corner where it's hard braking and then see if it'll actually help him with his braking zone. But it probably won't. He'll probably try to run through me. So who knows? It might not be good for my life, but we'll see.
You might get banned from the circuit for bringing in offensive material, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. You are right about that. I mean, but the fact is, I'll say we lie and say that I'm his number one fan. So it's like, hey, I want to show him, hey, look at me. I'm the only Egghead fan known to man that isn't his father. And Gene Haas, for whatever reason, somebody should support a guy that can't even finish a minute and a half within his own teammate. Like every useless Formula One driver in the history of Formula One, but whatever. I guess the check's clear. So,
did we actually see Gene Haas? Sorry, did we actually see Gene Haas here this weekend? I don't think.
Nah,
I don't remember seeing him. No.
Home race and.
I'm pretty sure Gene Haas has just disappeared off the face of the earth. To be honest with you, I haven't seen him.
He doesn't even show
for
up
a very long time.
He doesn't even show up to the NASCAR races anymore. And Tony spends half his time. Tony Stewart, the co-owner of Stewart House Racing, he spends half his time with his fiance at the NHRA races. So neither of the owners show up there. So Gene's like, okay, I don't have to show up for anything. I'll just waste my money running mid-pack everywhere, or in the back of the pack in this case. Must be nice being a millionaire like that.
Yeah. Imagine if Phil does do that though, and actually goes to the Miami race, for example, goes with the Egghead mask. It's just like, oh, I'm his biggest fan. Imagine if he gets invited to the garage as a fan experience thing. You finally get to meet your hero, Nikita Mazepin.
Oh dear! I think let's just start a GoFundMe. Let's get Phil to Miami.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I'm down with that. Let's do it. I'd love to go to Miami. I probably wouldn't make it to the race, though. That's the thing.
You heard it here first. It could well happen.
Manifesting, man. Let's manifest it.
Well,
they might actually put me in an FP1 if I can fit my big rear end in the car, too. So that considering how Haas is selling their rides to anybody.
Right, let's get into the last team that we haven't talked about yet, and let's ask Phil about it because he's got a blue shirt on. Alpine, day to forget for them, really. The only notable thing for them today was that they had quite a few crashes. Ocon had his crash at the start of the race, ended up retiring later on because of some problem with the rear of the car, apparently. And Alonso, he was absolutely in the wars with the Alfa Romeos and complaining about track limits and all sorts, but he too retired, I think, again with another rear wing issue.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate weekend for them, for Alpine. They made their year earlier this year prior to the summer break anyway. I think kind of like some of the other teams we've been talking about here, their focus has probably started switching over full to the 22 season. And it's one of the roughest circuits that they'll probably run on, probably the roughest circuit they're going to run on all year. And so they had failures that they didn't expect. Let's be glad that it didn't happen at the end of the front straight down the front straightaway, or it didn't happen down the back straightaway. that they were able to feel it out and know and see whatever the data and pull both drivers in. That I think is the positive. There really isn't much else you can say. The engine, situation going on too, and Alonso. I think the frustration, I'm sure, when you're having to race Alfa Romeos, when you've been a car that at times has been in the top 5 this year, and then of course has won a race, to be back there with a team that's 9th in the Constructors Championship, I'm sure that probably ain't going to make him happy. And when Fernando Alonso is not happy, he will let everybody know about it. So I guess it's kind of like wipe the slate clean and go to Mexico City here a couple weeks time, see if they can recover. That circuit is bumpy, not nowhere near as bumpy as Coda, of course, but there is some, there's a lot flatter circuit, so that might help them, and it'll be a little bit more smooth. But it's been a couple of years since they've been there, so we'll see what the track is like. And I would think that Alpine will come back, at least be somewhat in contention for a point or two come next race. But unfortunate weekend for them this weekend. Just glad they got out of the race okay in one piece, because it could be much worse when you're talking about rear wing issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the absolute last thing that we would want would be to this cause a crash or something like that, and it could be a nasty one as well. I mean, you got the 200-mile-an-hour back straight. It could have failed on there. Thankfully, it didn't. Both guys got to the pit safe. Didn't even cause any virtual safety cars. We only had a virtual safety car very, very briefly for Marshall picking up debris. It was a green light running almost throughout the entire race today. Which is really saying something. But the best thing for Alpine really is that AlphaTauri only scored 2 points and Aston Martin only scored 1 point today. So their double retirement doesn't really affect anything in terms of their constructors battle. But yeah, that's all the drivers. I did mention Pierre Gasly as well earlier on. He had a mechanical failure and ended up dropping out after just 14 laps, I think it was. So those are all the drivers. Those are all the constructors. Let's get into our pick for driver of the day. And I kind of wanted to give it to Char Leclair, but the more I think about what Max Verstappen did today, the way that he pulled those gaps for the undercut, because normally you'd expect him to pull out, a couple of seconds or so, but he was pulling out 6 seconds and then 8 seconds, I think it was, for his second stop. Those are some mammoth laps. And while going through traffic as well, while he was doing it, I can't overlook him for this. I have to give it to Verstappen. Phil, who's your choice for driver of the day?
For me, I'll go with Sergio Perez. I honestly think, even though, Max is the easy, straightforward one, I think, because of what he did and how he was able to hold off Lewis Hamilton. I think the way Sergio Perez ran all weekend, as I said earlier, one of the best, most complete weekends he's put together, and he's been in Formula One for 10, 11 years, however many years. It's been a while for him. I was kind of hoping, it's like, okay, if Red Bull's going to win a pole, I'll take Sergio Perez any day over Max Verstappen. And he had it in the initial run, had a chance again in the second run, but didn't, just lost by a few thousandths there to Lewis. He dictated the early part of the race, not just Max, Sergio did too. And he did his job. And fundamentally, when you can compare him to his compatriot at Mercedes, he's running way better, and I think he is starting to find a positive, calm foothold at a team that has had a lot of volatility over time, especially in the second seat. So credit to Checo going home here in a couple of weeks' time, trying to win the Mexican Grand Prix, first Mexican since Rodriguez to go and win there would be something.
Yeah, it would be. And with all the Day of the Dead celebrations probably going on too during that weekend, it's gonna be manic. It always is manic around Mexico City. I'm very glad we're going back there. It's been great this weekend for the US fans, like we've mentioned, but Mexico in 2 weeks' time, that'll be another massive party. It'll be huge to see. So one for each of the Red Bull drivers. Steve, who you were going for driver of the day?
I knew you'd ask this, and I've been racking my brain the whole time recording.
It's tough, isn't it?
Decide. I don't know. I mean, the logical answer would be Max. Just with there was a lot of pressure there. I mean, they obviously he and Lewis didn't come wheel to wheel, but that's a lot of pressure. And he sort of rose to the occasion and did the job. But I think I'll give it to Leclerc. Just to obviously break the Red Bull stranglehold so far, but he genuinely did a very, very good job. I mean, Ferrari are in this weird position at the moment where they're still recovering from very publicized and pretty ugly chapter in their racing history with the questionable engine that they were running in 2019. It's really, really good to see them starting to move up again. But Leclerc's in this weird sort of position now where he's almost there and almost able to harass for podiums and that sort of thing. He did a really, really good job. And my podium for today was actually Verstappen, Perez, and Leclerc. So we almost got there, if Lewis had to drop back for some reason. But he did a really good job. And he's that contributes towards that constructors fight that they're having with McLaren, which is very much that's still cooking. I think that'll go down to the last race at Yas Marina. So if he keeps putting in performances like that, they'll edge it, I think. But his drive today was really good. It's just like I said before, it's a shame we didn't see more of it. Because he did a fair bit of actual on-track passing as well.
He did, yeah, absolutely. Jared, who's your vote for?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, and everyone's picked good choices, but because we're heading into, I guess, what you'd call the championship rounds of the season, it was hard to look past Max and how resilient he was today and masterful as well. And I guess, they're probably, Red Bull is still have those wounds from Barcelona where they don't want that situation of being overcut by the Mercedes happening again. So, they put in a really good job today. And, it was looking like at one point, Mercedes, they have the advantage. They're quicker. The Red Bull can't catch them on the straights and all that sort of jazz. But he did a great job. And to hold on at the end, I think he can take that award from me this time.
Yeah, absolutely. He's he did a great job today. This is a massive win for him. A lot of people thought that it was going to be a Mercedes Mercedes track like it normally is, especially after first practice. I think both cars were like over a second faster than everybody else. But in the end, Red Bull surprises all. And you just don't know what's going to happen each week. We keep saying that, it's going to be Red Bull for the next two rounds after this. And it could well be, but it might not be. We don't know until we get into it. And that's the beauty of this season. It's so close between these two. It ebbs and flows brilliantly. It's a proper title fight. I know I keep saying it, but it really is. And it's so refreshing to have. But yes, thank you guys for joining us on this one. I'll give you guys a chance to plug your outlets, your podcasts as well. I think all three of you guys do have podcasts. So I'll start with you, Phil. What's the GSP and where can people find it?
Grip Strip Podcast. Thank you, George. The Grip Strip Podcast is motorsports podcast. Cover all things. As long as it goes fast, we cover it here on the Grip Strip Podcast, and even dogs too, in that sense. But we go and cover Formula One. We go into IndyCar, NASCAR, electric, whatever. We go into racing. We go into the NFL, sports, other interesting topics. Myself and Josh, and we've been on 80+ episodes, so we're sneaking up there. We're working up there. Early days, but it helps being on with you, George, and with the guys here. Made a lot of good friends and lots of great conversation. So you can find us at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter. You can find the Grip Strip Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pandora. You can find me at Philip G. Mathew on Twitter, and my co-host JP Huffine at JP Huffine, or Josh Huffine is JP Huffine on Twitter. So thanks again George, for the invite, and we're looking forward to the next races.
Absolutely, yeah. Always welcome, Phil. And do check out those guys' podcast. They cover a lot more things, like they said, outside of Formula One. So if you want to get your fix for things like IndyCar, NASCAR, all that good stuff as well, you can find it on the GSP. Formula Shakedown also have a podcast now, don't they, Steve? And you're one of the guys on it.
Yeah, it's a very new thing. It's so new, in fact, that we're still working out exactly where we want to where we want to go with it. But we're 4 episodes in now, so episode 4 was recorded yesterday in a slightly more I suppose casual and unscripted setting. It was terrifying considering I hosted it and they had no idea what I was doing.
Welcome to the club, mate.
But no, so that's basically the episodes are basically just being listed on the Formula Shakedown Facebook page at the moment, whilst we figure out the mechanics of it all. But Formula Shakedown itself, growing healthily. So we're a largely Asia Pacific based group, but wherever you are in the world, you can join. It's basically set up as a page or a group where motorsport fan or Formula One fans. We've got other pages as well for sports cars and MotoGP and that sort of thing as well. But they all follow a very similar sort of setting of just being very approachable and friendly, and just to get rid of a lot of the toxicity that we see in social media nowadays, especially with Formula One. It's very, very prevalent. So if you want to join, come and join. You can find us on Facebook, Formula Shakedown. If you're somebody who enjoys watching drivers get potentially harmed, or likes voicing your opinions and formats that typically get you removed from groups, then maybe don't bother. But other than that, please come and join us.
The most wholesome community on Facebook, I think, is the way you described it a few times, and that's pretty accurate, to be fair. Yeah, I'm doing your taglines for you. Jawad, you also have the show Hit the Apex podcast, which I think the main outlet for that is on YouTube and Spotify, is it not?
Yeah, Spotify and also Apple Podcasts as well for those who have Apple products. So yeah, we're going to be recording this week. Got a guest lined up as well, which will be good fun. Good friend of mine who's been eager to come on for a while. And yeah, we're going to talk about the race. Obviously, he's a closet Max Verstappen fan, so that's going to be interesting to get his thoughts on the season so far and what's it like. You know, I'm sure his heart rate's gone up and down quite a few times, but also a big supercars fan as well for V8 Supercars. So they'll be back this weekend, thankfully. So we'll have a look at what's going to happen this weekend and preview the rest of the season, which I think will be wrapped up in like 5 or 6 weeks time.
Absolutely. We go to mid-December, I think, this year, so quite late for F1, but obviously we had the late start as well, so there you go. But yes, definitely check out Hit the Apex podcast. I'm glad as well, I know I keep saying it, I'm so glad as well that V8 Supercars and Motorsport is back in Australia as well. It's been way too long. And if you guys want to check out our show on some of the formats as well, depending on which ones you're listening or watching on, we're also available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, and Pocket Cast. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk and all those. We also go out live on our YouTube channel as well, and we've just passed over 300 subscribers, which is fantastic to see. Really been growing on there. If as well, there's also the competitions that are running. We do it every month. If you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, if you comment on the proper video itself, not just the live stream, the proper video after the live stream has gone out, or you give us a 5-star review on iTunes, you will be able to be entered into a competition to win some merchandise, such as the shirt that I'm wearing right now. It's a Grid Talk t-shirt, and you can find it, if you want to buy it outside of the competition, at f1chronicle.com/store. So yeah, and also check out our back catalogue of shows as well. We're coming up to 150 episodes. We'll hit over 150 before the end of the season, which is just incredible. I think we'll hit it for Brazil sprint qualifying, if we're still doing sprint qualifying there. So so that's amazing to see. And we'll be back on Saturday or Sunday sometime this weekend to preview the Mexican Grand Prix. Thank you very much for joining us, lads. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we'll see you next weekend. Until then, goodbye. recording stopped. Right.
I'm really sorry about my dog.
Oh, it's all right, mate.
It's all good. It's all good. We had to go and poke fun at it. It's like
Apparently,
Tom's
one of my
cat.
dogs is a fan of your show there, Phil. So there you go.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We have very few, so the fact that your dog is a fan, it probably speaks to the quality.
The dog bark heard around the world, heard in at least 4 countries right here. I think this might.
There we go.
I think this might be the. I was thinking this as well. I think this might be the first time we've had a show with people from 4 different countries for the 4 panelists. I might be wrong, but I don't think it's happened much before.
Yeah, because normally we've got a couple of people from the UK.
Yeah, UK.
Phil is pretty resident with this, and then I've got Jawad, who's basically a neighbour, considering where the rest of you guys are. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, it's
sure
morning
you
for
would have
you
been-
two, so.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Steve would have been happy with the start time of this one.
Oh, thank fuck.
still-
I'm normally up at Sparrow's Fart in the morning to do these.
yeah,
I normally do qualifying because I can like usually I work from home, but even then that's bloody taxing to do that on a Monday.
yeah.
So it's nice, and I'm hoping that next year we get like Singapore and that sort of thing back as well, so I can
some more
actually
Asian
watch races at normal times.
Yeah, no, it's pretty tough being on this side of the world and being a Grand Prix fan.
really
but
is.
For New Zealanders
The-
especially.
On the flip side, it means I get to watch the Bathurst 12-hour at like not stupid o'clock like the rest of the world. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get
I'm
a 4
hoping that
a.m.
comes. I'm hoping that's on next year. They have a
Yeah,
date, but it's not locked in because that was like the last big race I went to before COVID in 2020.
I was meant to go. When did M Sport win? That was what 2020, wasn't it? Started 2020.
Bentley.
Yeah. I was meant to go to that, and I didn't. And I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll go next year. And then they were like, oh, it's cancelled.
Yeah,
Like,
haven't had
okay,
it.
fair enough. I'll go in 2022. And then M Sport said, hey, we're pulling out of GT3. I was like, I had a bit of a cry.
It is one of the best like events I've been to. Like it's so underrated with like how many people actually turn up, but you can just walk into the paddock, like you could just be hanging behind the garages. You can go on top of the pit lane building. They've got like a bar up there. Like they just let anyone. It's you don't have to pay for a paddock pass. So it's probably one of the like best motorsport events I've been to.
Shakedown got tours of the Triple F Lamborghini and the what was the other Garage 59 McLaren teams last year or whenever it was. So I mean, like they just like they're really, it's a very, very open event, like you said. I mean, like they want people in the garage, they want to talk to people and that sort of thing, which is really really good. If Phil and George, if you ever get the chance to visit Australia around the time of the Bathurst 12-hour, I highly recommend it. It's amazing. It's like Bathurst but without the bogans.
Yeah, basically. I think they said, one time during the telecast, it's like if the 1000 is for the VB drinkers, then your 12 hours more for the Peroni crowd. So I think Peroni's
the blokes who they turn up with the chiller full of prosecco and they just sit there like,
I'll have to have darling. I have to have my pinky up for the 12-hour, and then I just have to watch for all my orifices.
It's mandatory.
At the 1000.
It's
also
like,
bloody
good to have. It's good. It is bloody hot, and it's also really handy to have your pinky spare because whenever the mark cars go past, you can just do that quickly because they're fucking loud.
The Mustangs especially are just they rattle you.
If God's plumbing made noise, that would be it. Like it's immense. Sorry, I could go on about that all day. I don't know.
I've wanted to go to Bathurst for a while. I mean, I've wanted to go to Australia for a long time. I'm hoping one day.
If you go to Bathurst, if you go to the Bathurst 1000s, people really love it when you wear a shirt or bring a flag that says Roland Dane is a filthy cheat. You'll be you'll be super popular. And if you don't get that reference, it's okay because Jawad does, and he knows that I'm just trying to.
get you killed? Is that was it sarcasm?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
No, I would fly that because I can't stand 888 or Roland Dane anyway. So yeah, so that's something I would, and Jamie Winch Cup and all and then Shane Van Gisbergen, who looks like a I don't like him either. I just don't like it. Only if it wasn't for Craig Lowndes, there would be nothing redeeming about that organization. And their Red Bull.
I don't know. He's probably too busy texting teenagers when he shouldn't be anyway. So.
Anyway, we stepped into dangerous territory here. So
all right, now we have to probably call the show off because now we just made a.
No. It's all right. The recording stopped. It's just the live that's going out, so we'll be fine.
It's probably a hasty generalization about Jeff Gordon of Australian motorsports. Oh man.
No, for reference, it was a legal affair, but Craig Lowndes was basically just having a bit of a piece on the side sort of situation. Anywho.
Outstanding.
Wonderful.
That's wonderful. What. So was why am I forgetting? Was Crompo there giving commentary, or was Mark Scaife breaking it down?
He might have been. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's off the scale, Scafey would have said. It's off the scale.
Yeah. I figure Crompo was probably there breaking it down and giving general emphasis of what was happening.
Oh, we would have got like a per sector replay of what happened. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Quick thought. Where are we? I'm just having a look at the championship the constructors standings. I think this is updated. Mercedes 460.5, Red Bull 437.5. That'd be updated, wouldn't it?
It is.
That's accurate. Yeah,
it's 23.
So we know that Mexico and Brazil are going to be we said that Cota's going to be favored towards Mercedes, and look what happened. But if they, so I'm just trying to work out if Red Bull can actually clinch constructors before the season ends, because I kind of get the impression that we're now heading towards like a double showdown of both championships at Yas Marina.
I think realistically it's going to go down to the last year, because one team would need to have a 45-point gap. It'd be 23 plus 18 plus 1.
Because you need to.
So it'd be 46.
I don't see. Realistically, I don't see that being possible.
It's awarded to the team as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
as well as the driver. Yeah. Okay. So this it's honestly building up to something really, really interesting. It's just a shame it's at Yas Marina because it puts me to sleep. But if we imagine if we went to Brazil as the last race still.
Oh, how they used to when they used to open the season at Brazil, Because
it used to be Brazil would open and then Australia would close, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Adelaide, and then
that's almost the other way around.
Swapped it. Yeah. And now they want to. There's politicians there that are trying to get rid of the circuit altogether, which I have such a soft spot for Adelaide for many reasons.
Yeah.
I loved the old long circuit, the proper circuit, not the one that they chopped off a part of it just to keep supercars going there. And then now the politicians are doing what they usually do. It's what happens here. It happens everywhere. They get rid of circuits that have legendary history, and then like the Clipsal 500 is a great race. It's one of the great races in the supercars calendar. Now that they got rid of that too. Come on.
I mean, it beats Sandown any day of the week, but that's another story.
Sandown's a dump, anyways. It's a shithole. It's like Texas Motor Speedway. It's like Texas Motor Speedway for the supercars.
Yeah.
Have you checked with Jawad what his thoughts on Sandown are? Because you could be really upsetting him.
Well, I love it because it's like the closest race I can get to here, apart from the Grand Prix. But at the same time, it is a dump. It's had no upgrades, or the only time they did an upgrade was when we had that massive crash. I think was it Hazelwood or something, when one of the last 500k races they did.
I remember that.
And yeah, like because it's pretty much earmarked to be torn down and like built a housing estate built there. I think they don't really care. But then also there won't be. I think they're planning on building another circuit, permanent one out in the boondocks somewhere, which it'd be too far to get to. I might as well go to Winton or Phillip Island if they brought one of those back, but I finally got to go to Adelaide and look at the track last year, and I was like, just because they've got the curbs there and everything, it's just like, this is history I'm standing on. Even though they had set it up as a COVID testing site too, so like you had cars driving in and out doing COVID tests.
Oh man,
it's kind of like the 1991 race, anyways. It was the COVID test. It was just like the 91 race, except without the downpour.
If they get rid of Melbourne, could you see, I was just trying to think of where they could host the Aussie Grand Prix. Like the Bend wouldn't be up
There's
to
no
scratch,
other.
No way.
There's no other.
Bend is boring.
Bend is not great at
It's
all.
It's too complicated, and it just reminds me of like your Bahrain or your Qatar.
Yeah, it's a Tilke drone.
Yeah.
Phillip Island
it would be
is not
interesting.
tier 1, right? It's tier 2.
No, it's way too narrow.
God, can you imagine F1 cars like bombing through Siberia and there's no
runoff areas either.
It's all grass, yeah.
Like it's terrifying. I've done Phillip Island a few times for MotoGP, and it scares me then because there's stuff all runoff areas. And I'm just imagining
and then there's
how quickly a Formula
water.
1 car would be able to do that. Yeah, exactly. It would be a shame if Melbourne does go, because really I can't see any suitable replacement.
No,
I didn't see somebody suggest Bathurst. They were like, an F1 car's been around there before. I was like, yeah, it was jacked up to the highest it could go, and it still bottomed out. And also, I don't know if you guys hear much about this over there, but there's been a lot going on in local media about Sydney trying to make another bid for the Grand Prix or whatever.
We've seen that.
And that's just it's not going to happen,
isn't it? Yeah.
But it's not stopping them from trying.
It's going to be around the Olympic Park, just like the old V8 circuit. Right?
Oh, that was horrible.
But that circuit was not good either.
Yeah, that was horrible. No, they're talking about around the underneath the Harbour Bridge kind of thing. Do a Baku style street track, but it just logistically it wouldn't work because you really can't shut down that city.
I'm not fond of New York renewed interest in street circuits, because Baku is an exception. I do like Baku. I think it's a good circuit, but apart from a couple of sections. But this fascination with street circuits isn't really, gelling with me when there's so much potential with the established circuits that we already have that would be up to snuff with a little bit of work. I mean, look what they did with Zandvoort. That wasn't a particularly exciting race, but God, that's a fun track.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Mugello as well. I love that track.
Yeah, Mugello was insane. I think that's a really good venue, and it's nice to see Imola back as well. So they've definitely got there is appetite there amongst the fans for dedicated circuits that they've either not used before or they just haven't used for a very long time. I for one would love to see Zolder back on the calendar, but it's definitely not up to scratch, and I think you'd be looking at a sub-minute lap there easily.
That's the problem with a lot of these circuits now. They're trying to flirt with that 1 minute time, and they don't want to do that.
No. I mean, the Red Bull Ring is sort of cutting it fine with that sort of thing anyway. And then with what did they call not Bahrain last year? The short track.
Sakir.
Yeah,
Sakir.
Yeah, Sakir Grand Prix. Thank you. That was an exciting race, but it wasn't an exciting circuit to watch. It was
it was a roval.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Definitely
Although
was
the
on the
NASCAR
calendar.
fans could have watched that and just been like, yes, I understand what's happening here. It's predominantly right turns.
Yeah. And George
That's
George dominated and should have won. That's how I'll always remember the Secure Grand Prix for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
If they never run
Yeah,
the Bahrain Oval ever again, that's the race that George should have won his first Grand Prix.
Yeah,
That's
the one that
100%.
got away. He'll have plenty of other chances. I think he's going to actually boss it next year. But
It'll be fine. I liked Estoril. I love the Estoril circuit. They've kind of jacked that one up, and now because Portimao is there, they're probably not going to look at that. That's that circuit. I think the one in South Africa,
Kyalami.
Kyalami. When they had to change it, they changed it in the 90s. They took away a lot of the character of the circuit, and then they only ran there a couple of times and then left. I mean, Donington, I love Donington, but it's not a Formula One, and they almost killed the place in the process trying to make it Formula One.
The trouble with Kyalami as well is it's a grade 2 circuit. So I mean, it doesn't take much to get it to grade 1. I think I know that there's a few parameters, but it's basically like
Enrico said he contacted, because he's South African, he said he contacted the circuit and asked why they're not grade 1. And they said the predominant reason was because they don't have enough grandstand attendance capacity. Sorry, that's the main reason.
Which I thought that's just one of the things, Because one of the excuses I saw was that there's not a intensive care unit equipped hospital within a 50-kilometer radius or whatever it is. There's 3.
Yeah, then.
So that's not an excuse. There's 3. Well, there's at least 2. I think the third one might be on the fringes of it. But
it's like in the city of Pretoria, pretty much, isn't it? It's almost
part of the city these days. It's actually not far from where my grandparents used to live. So I went to Kyalami with my grandfather. I was about 7 or 8, so I think this would have been well before they rebuilt it, basically. Interesting circuit. It's really, really from the vague memories that I have, it's very, very fun. And it's surrounded by incredibly dodgy neighborhoods, but that's pretty typical of
Brazil too. Sao Paulo, Mexico City.
Yeah,
we're getting into some sketchy races here. The next 4 races, we're going into some sketchy.
Oh, I can't wait for the human rights violation Grand Prix 1 and 2. That's going to be great. I hope David Croft just says, and it's rights out, and away we go. Drops it in there and just carries on like doesn't say a damn thing.
No, they're gonna have Jensen they'll have Jensen for that one, and then he'll have some one-liner. So then Crofty has to come back in.
Oh God. This is the thing that's really I've been a good boy with this on Formula Shakedown, and I'll maintain my composure here, but it makes me incredibly angry that they are really hammering home this we races one, and inclusiveness and equality and yada yada yada. Then they go and have a race in Texas where it's great unless you're a woman and you have no bodily autonomy at all, or you go and race in Bahrain or Saudi Arabia where
in Russia.
It really, really gets to me. But money talks, right? Like Lewis Hamilton said this a couple of years ago. Money talks, and even though the context of that comment when he made it was slightly different, it's a very good point. It's almost as if the we races one is basically a crutch to excuse them racing in the countries where there are horrific human rights violations. So
I think you're right there.
It's unfortunate, but I don't expect it'll change. We can make noise about it for sure, and maybe one day somebody will pay attention. But I
kind of doubt that.
Put my hopes up.
I don't think
it's
what it is. We've gone away from the days of mostly European calendar anyway, because of the cost and because of the rights fees and all that. And then the places that can pay those fees are these countries which have these whatever human rights violations, unfortunately. I mean, it's a sad commentary. You need to just be flush with, there's so many people that became billionaires or millionaires or whatever during COVID. Well, some of them that aren't dickheads would have to go and invest and do something good. which doesn't happen very often for like Formula One or other motorsports entities to actually house the best drivers and or house the best tracks too. But that's asking a lot.
And it's not to say that the like every, I suppose, country or state has its history, and like no one's perfect, but it's more just hammering home and a very strong ideal of inclusivity, whilst also turning a blind eye to horrific violations of human rights and that sort of thing. Is just that's what gets to me. But on the other hand, it is really nice that there are a number of drivers in the paddock who are very forthcoming with their thoughts around it. Like Lewis Hamilton's one. Sebastian Vettel has been very, very vocal, especially about environmental protections and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
So, there is hope. And as long as drivers are not shy to, at least discuss it, because there's nothing wrong with that. And the people who turn around and say, "Oh, you're just a driver, shut up and drive,"
No,
they're
they
still
can't.
entitled to their
That's
opinion.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Like, they're still
they
entitled
have
to their opinion, just the same as we
course.
are. Like, we can sit here and talk about it, and if somebody turned around to me and said, "Oh, like you don't have a clue what you're talking about, shut up," that's their opinion, and I'll ignore it because it's stupid.
They've got the platform to be able to reach, so many people, and they're using that platform for what we see as good, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I saw somebody make a comment that Seb only does it for attention. Like,
No,
I don't.
have you
He's never
seen
done
his
it.
social
He's got
media?
no social
He
media.
has
The
now.
guy's
Exactly. He doesn't.
The-
It's not like he's not doing it for attention. He's doing it because he gives a damn. Like,
Yeah,
there's a
'cause he's
very,
good
very
guy.
definitive line.
he does it because he's
like-
the opposite of his teammate. He actually is a good person. So it's like it's,
You say that, but Lance Stroll is a bit like, it's fun to rib him a little bit. He is quite vocal around the mental health side of things. He has done a
Really?
lot of work in that field in the past. So
that's interesting.
I don't necessarily think he's a terrible person. He's done some daft stuff, and the association with his dad is never going to go away, because I do think his dad is basically just a Canadian mafia boss.
Yeah, exactly.
He does look it. Yeah, I know what you mean.
He does, yeah. Especially the way they
Don
portray him in
Lawrence.
Drive to Survive Season 2. Just, you come to me, you tell me my car is illegal. It's just it's so bad. It's so bad. But it's television. Right?
He sounded like freaking you made him sound like, what's his name from Godfather? What the heck?
Yeah, Vito Corleone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded exactly like him.
Yeah.
But I don't see any negatives in drivers using the Formula One platform to actually discuss things that concern them, because at the end of the day, if it's if it's not bringing the brand or their team or their personal brand into disrepute, if anything, I think it's just highlighting the fact that there is a genuine problem, and plenty of people just still have their heads buried in the sand because ignorance is bliss, right? But and especially around the environmental thing, we don't have to worry about it. I think we're in one of the last generations where at our age we don't have to worry about it, right? But I have a 11-year-old daughter, and I want to make sure that she can actually breathe clean air and eat actual food and drink fresh water and have a roof over her head, and I think that applies to anyone who has family or that sort of thing, or anybody with basically a pulse. So if you don't think that's an issue, then I think the issue is more internal rather than a question mark over whether that sort of thing is a genuine concern. But anyway, I like that. I could go on about that, but it just annoys me that people aren't that there are certain people out there who don't take the opinions of these guys seriously, because they're just as valid as any other opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Shall we? That was a fantastic conversation. Don't get me wrong, but shall we answer some? Because I had quite a few comments on a live stream. Shall we?
Awesome.
Answer some of these guys'
absolutely.
questions? So Aaron from Five Red Lights podcast has put, good evening, chaps. Such a great attendance and a wild atmosphere at COTA today. Has F1 finally cracked it in America? We've kind of covered this, really. I mean, it's just a huge crowd that they've had this week. And I mean, I think it's probably been helped by them not having a race last year.
Yeah.
It's still impressive, nevertheless. It really, especially with the pandemic still ongoing. It's not gone by any means, even though it's not.
Yeah, and it's in Texas too. So yeah. I think I'm glad because of all the news and things that have come out of COTA, them having to basically bring NASCAR over there to kind of keep them going in a sense. Money has always been tight. And the fact they had this turnout, they had the great weekend that they had there is very positive. Also having MotoGP there. I mean, who knows, maybe they won't be there next year, but I think having the U.S. Grand Prix come off in light of the fact there's going to be a Miami Grand Prix and having so many fans and such great energy there the whole weekend is a positive. I mean, did they crack the code? Who knows? It's Liberty is an American company. There's going to be an American owner, 2 American owners, or 1.5 American owners in Formula One next year, more than likely. You're going to likely have an American driver. There's going to be things. We'll see how it keeps on going. But, Logan Sargent, of course, the news for him too. I'm curious. That's one thing I was going to say, before we go on, the junior program for Williams, I think, is basically right now Jamie Chadwick and Logan Sargent. And Jamie Chadwick just won W Series again, and Logan Sargent has done all right for himself. So I think it's a positive sign for Williams, in their future, at least, if they want to be progressive.
Well, yeah, I mean, the main driver, the main man who was in their driver academy before was Roy Nissany, and not really the kind of person you want to be heading that up. But Logan Sargent, he's got some big potential, as does Jamie Chadwick. I really want to see Jamie Chadwick in F2 or F3. It's great that she's winning the W Series, but
I kind of feel like that's where we're going. Like they're going to try to get a team. I mean, I don't know which team it'll be. It sounds like there's only back marker cars left, but they try to get both of them into F2 next year and build, and then by the second year, maybe they'll be able to be all right, I guess.
Connor Walker has, of course, as always, commented on this live stream a few times. Thank you, Connor. You're always here. You're always commenting. You're another one fan without a doubt. What a drive by Max. Also, the battle between Ferrari and McLaren is really intense. And yeah, I mean, it has been. I mean, I think 2 of us went for Max for driver of the day today. He was excellent. Huge marker that he's laid down today, without a doubt. And Ferrari and McLaren, their battles keep going on as well. I mean, 3.5 points between them 2 teams. It's great to see. As a McLaren fan, I'm not enjoying it that much because it means it's still going on. Until it's confirmed, it's like, you're always going to be a bit nervy. But it's great for the sport, obviously, to see these 2 great teams up there. And obviously, they want to be winning races and championships and stuff. But compared to where they were in the not too distant past, Ferrari having an awful 2020 and McLaren being terrible until 2017, 2018. It's a hell of a recovery by both of them.
You almost forget about the massive lows that McLaren were experiencing with the Honda partnership. That just feels like so long ago now. So power to them. Ferrari, their wounds are still a bit more fresh, and people still make the occasional jab at them on social media and that sort of thing. But they've genuinely turned themselves around on what appears to be a genuine return to form off the back of just an atrocious 2020. So both teams they've got genuine pace now. So this is basically just a neck and neck fight between the 2.
Yeah. And hopefully next year as well, they just have a car that, like we see with McLaren and Ferrari, they're very circuit specific at the moment too. So next year, hopefully they can deliver, like if they do manage to close the gap to the leaders, that, we can see them fighting week in, week out. So that's another thing too.
Well, here's one that's probably going to make a few of our viewers and listeners laugh. I've had a few comments about Mazepin today. Who's put that one? It was Connor Walker, I think, again as well. Also, this shouldn't come really as across as a surprise to anybody, but holy hell, Mazepin was slow today. Almost a minute off his teammate, more than a minute off his teammate. And Tom Downey as well, one of our regular guests on here. I'm interested to hear Phil's view on how Mazepin did today. So Phil,
yeah, I figured you were going to angle. You were going to angle that
Here we go.
Haas thing because it usually goes to me.
Yeah,
I'm so ready for this.
We've been very chill and calm. I thought I did my bit after Jawad did such a great job. He kept it short and sweet with the Haas stuff. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I get it. Because what are you going to say about a guy who can't drive a hot nail through snow and gets beat by his teammate by a minute again? What are you going to do? I think what we talked about during the show or wherever within the show about me going and being Egghead's number one fan would be one of the greatest bits ever in the history of comedy. It would be something that could actually run on Saturday Night Live, because if I actually was able to talk to the robot, I would try to go and see if he has like a twist key behind him, because the guy cannot be, he's subhuman or something, right? Because you can't suck that bad. I mean, he does suck, but it's like, if you're going to, at least suck and be like a half a second behind your teammate. It's okay. There's guys that have been terrible in Formula One, but this is like next level stuff here. And I've said about this team, Russia's national team now, they're not an American team. Egghead and his stupid father, and the fact that Gene Haas runs his team the way he ran his NASCAR team, which is why Tony Stewart owns 51% of the NASCAR team. Whatever. What is this guy gonna do? I'm pleasantly surprised that the blue flags situation didn't come up today. It kind of did with
black
Nick.
and white flag as well.
Did he get a black, white, and flag?
And Raikkonen did, and somebody else. I think Alonso probably got one as well. Quite a few got black and white flags for driving standards. I think it was blue flags and also track limits for all those guys.
Oh yeah, I think that's as much. A lot of Alonso had issues with track limits. Raikkonen was all over, and then he ended up going off. And it's with he's freaking awful, anyways. The fact he doesn't crash. The fact he doesn't crash is like a bonus. That's number one. Number two, that his team likes him. It's because his dad pays the checks. That's why they like him. Does the guy have a personality? Does the guy talk? Does he know how to drive a car forward at speed? Like, it doesn't seem that way.
I just don't know of any other marker to if being a minute and a half behind your own teammate in the slowest car on the grid isn't enough of a marker that you might not be very good at this, I don't know what is.
Yeah. He's not alone in that regard.
Yeah.
There are Bottas has done it a few times, but the regularity of it, and he's being compared to a fellow rookie. Yeah, the son of the 7-time world champion. I think he's going to be a great driver. I think he is a good driver now, but he's still a rookie, a guy that he was competing with against in F2. And he's miles off of him still after 17 races or whatever we had this season, 18 races.
He's consistent. He's consistently terrible. And you just have to, you gotta give the guy, it's easy to slag Egghead. You gotta give him credit. He sucks on command. It's a great thing. You don't usually get that.
I honestly thought you were about to give him a compliment there for a second. I was terrified.
No, that's never going to happen. Come on.
What, that he's alive? That's about all we can say that's like a positive for him and his mom and his dad. That's about it. Because to lie about the fact that he's a Formula One driver, Christ almighty. My goodness.
I do
he's
like how Tom has
he's
gone
like the
out
Russian. He's a Russian Yuji Ide. Like, that's literally what he is.
No, that's not fair on Yuji Ide. Yuji Ide had a successful career holding up traffic in Super GT after Formula One.
Yeah.
In a 3-year-old Bentley.
Yeah.
God.
So at least he's got that. I mean, it's just, yeah, I do appreciate that Tom has gone out of his way to ask your specific thoughts on Mazepin.
He sits
It's
there
the highlight
during
of any episode that you're that you're on for me when it comes to your driver feedback.
George.
Just,
no, they say I was called a hater of all drivers on here by somebody. Somebody sent a comment. I don't hate all drivers. There's certain drivers. It's pretty simple. If you go down this grid, it's pretty simple. There's the guy that's going to win the world championship for many reasons. Then it's all the ride. It's Stroll, Latifi, and Egghead. After that, I like one driver, which is the 7-time world champion, 101 Grand Prix winner, or Daniel Ricardo. And then after that, I either like the guy, don't care, or whatever. It's fine. They don't bother me. But people say I hate every driver. No, I don't. I love the sport, but Egghead, it will never happen. He is the worst on so many levels. He is just an abomination. I mean, just name him a bomb. Just make abomination. Terrible. All the references from like inside the NBA here. Like, let Charles Barkley talk about him. That would be funny. You think I'm funny?
Oh my god!
Like Charles Barkley go off on him. That would be funny.
Oh Jesus!
How the hell can an egghead guy go and drive a race car like that? And he drives around 2 seconds slower than everybody else. That is crazy.
He's 2 seconds a lap slower than his teammate. And his teammate's 3 seconds a lap slower than everybody else. Oh man! Right,
man.
Just a few.
And the guy would be considered a platinum. He'd be considered a platinum driver based on the driver rating, FIA driver ratings. There are guys that can't get a job because of their driver rating, and this guy's a platinum, and the guy can't drive. I don't get it. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Money talks. There we go. I said it before. That definitely applies to Mazepin as well. Just a few more to get through now. So we've got Gus as well commenting. Thank you for your comment, Gus. I don't think I've seen you on here before. I feel like Checo won this race today for Red Bull. His inputs on car setups from Friday to Saturday gave Red Bull the win this weekend. I didn't actually catch much of the practice or qualifying personally, but I guess he was doing a lot of long runs and just kind of helping out the team with the setups, and it obviously works because they've got a car that was actually faster than Mercedes around Costa, which hasn't happened for the whole hybrid era apart from that one race in 2018 with Kimi Raikkonen.
There was an interesting comment, I think, it might have been FP3 or qualifying. Checo's actually steering away from this default Max Verstappen style setup that he's been referring to for most of the year. And coincidentally, there's been a bit of a upshift in his just relative performance to Max and just his performance overall as well. So it's a really unorthodox car, that Red Bull. It's very, very I'd describe it as nervous. It's very pointy, and it's definitely a car that requires a specific driving style, which has obviously been built around Max. So for Checo to go into Red Bull and inside of a year, develop from being, I think he was averaging across the first 5 races, he was about half a second off the pace compared to Max. And that gap has slowly been, shrinking as the season's gone on. And this weekend, even though he wasn't quite where he needed to be, in my opinion, I think if he was able to play games with Lewis and hold him up and interfere with Mercedes, default strategy, then, ideally he needed to be up there. But where he finished is going to make, I think that'll make the difference when we get to Yas Marina, because I mentioned it before, I think this will go down to the final race of the season. And the points that he's accrued today for the team by ending up on the podium and reducing that gap to Mercedes in the Constructors Championship is going to help them hugely, because they won't win it by much and they won't lose it by much. So really the game is very much still on, but he capitalized on a good qualifying basically, and it's nice to see him actually steering away from a setup that favours Max and actually trying to develop his own.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question as well. Marco Gonzalez, who's a regular commenter on here as well. Thank you for your comment, mate. I won't be able to get through all of these that you've put, but I will do the first one. This race was starting to feel like the changing of the guard. Only way 44 to win this year, to make a few mistakes as possible. I'm not sure what he meant to say there. The only way for Hamilton to win would be to make as few mistakes as possible, which is what he's done for the most part, really. Hamilton is starting to feel like an old champion now, question mark. Needs help from Russell next year. Well, he's going to need help from Russell next year regardless, probably, given how this year has gone. I mean, he has needed help from Bottas this year as well. And the thing for Russell as well, I mean, obviously he did get parachuted into the Mercedes in Sakir last year, like we keep saying, and he did perform so well. He should have won that race had he not any tyre issues or anything like that. But we've seen how guys that have, kind of changed team have struggled at first. I don't think it's going to be the case next year because of the changing regulations. Everybody's kind of going to be on a similar relative plane. It's not going to be as big of a deal. But no matter what, Russell's going to have to get in that car and perform straight away.
Yeah. I think changing the guard's a interesting comment, actually, because I won't take up too much of this question, actually, but I think what Mercedes are looking at now is a future without Lewis Hamilton, because he's probably got a season or two left before he hangs up his helmet and walks away, and he's proven he doesn't need to prove anything else. He is just the statistically and by all rights, genuinely the best driver we've ever had in the sport. So he hasn't got anything else to prove. He's done everything he can. So I think this is less of Lewis needing help from George and more of Mercedes themselves making sure they develop George as a driver. So by the time Lewis leaves, he's ready to take over that team leader role.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Because then where did Mercedes go when Hamilton retires? There's a few options for sure, but Russell's going to have to be that team leader at that point because he'll be the most experienced guy in Mercedes. He's been a part of Mercedes since 2017, since he became a young driver. So he's been there for a while already, even though he's not been racing for the team itself. So it'll be very important for him to take up that role, and he's going to learn a lot from Hamilton next year. But I
think he's ready to. George is ready for this, and I think George is going to be the guy as long as Mercedes is committed to Formula One. I think they feel that George is the guy that can take them, continue what they have built. If they didn't, then they would have kept the same lineup for whatever reason. I think the next year, I feel like, okay, fine, Lewis has not had. But Lewis has won races. I think at the end of the day, when you boil it down to simplest terms, Red Bull made the better car. Max has been the better driver across overall this year. The team's they've done a better job. Okay, when you consider that Mercedes has dominated from 2014 to 2020, at some point it has to end. It ended for Michael Schumacher in 2005 with Fernando Alonso. It ended for Senna in 92 with Williams, Prost, whoever. There's always an end game. So now, and the next generation of drivers is there, including who his teammate's going to be next year. The reality is Max is the future, and he's been building up to this for years. They finally gave him what he needed. Everything came together. And there's a bunch of other guys that are hungry and on his heels too. The Landos and Leclercs and George Russell and, so many other young guys. And this sport is probably, even though there's a lot of aspects that are not great, there is a lot of great talent there that can drive the sport forward and keep it live, even with, Lewis Hamilton's eventual retirement. But, it's a positive. There's a lot of positives there, which I think for a long time in Formula One, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that new partnership between Hamilton and Bottas next year. Hamilton and Russell. That's how long it's been that they've been teammates. You just expect Hamilton and Bottas, you just say one after the other, but Hamilton and Russell very much overdue as well in some regards. So yeah. Well, I think I'm going to call the show there, lads. I need to get going to bed, unfortunately. Jared and Steve, you have a good week. Phil, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, man. Thanks for everything. Always having us on.
Oh, it's always good having you on. Always good getting together for this. And yeah, it'll probably be similar for Mexico in 2 weeks' time as well. I think it's similar kind of session time, so we'll probably have a very similar weekend format. So, but yeah, I'll let you guys know about that. Yeah, and thanks to everybody who joined us on a live stream as well. Very much appreciated. Thanks for your comments, and yeah, catch you in a week's time.
All right.